Welcome to the Inspiring Entrepreneurs podcast. I'm Katie McNair, Marketing Manager here at Inspire. Today we're going to be diving into the world of what employers really want. Trust me, this matters. Whether you're worried about landing your first job or trying to achieve your dream role, stick with us because in this episode we're going to be talking to Adam Gordon from Poetry and Vickie McArthur from Insights, who are going to give us insider clarity, specific language and expert advice that you can actually use to get where you want to go. If you're listening today because you feel like you need some help, you are definitely not alone. The job market is looking tough. Graduate job listings are down by 33% since early 2025, their lowest volume in 7 years. Employers are increasingly hesitant to hire, being impacted by AI disruption, rising taxes and economic uncertainty. Application fatigue is real. Many applicants are reporting having to complete unpaid assignments or even producing entire plans without compensation or feedback. And lastly, you'll not be surprised that a staggering 79% of job seekers admit to experiencing anxiety during their search, and 20% are reporting extreme levels. More than 70% say that the process is harming their mental health. If all of this sounds bleak, don't panic because we have some experts here today who can help you make sure that you make the moves that you need to get where you want to be. Adam Gordon, founder of Poetry, who's been placing top talent in industries and knows what hiring managers are really paying attention to. And we have Vickie McArthur from Insight. She is helping to deliver a workforce that is equipped for tomorrow's challenges. Thank you very much for joining us today. As a quick opener, I'd love to ask you, when a recruiter sees a resume, because a lot of our listeners will be students who are thinking about this kind of thing right now, what is the first thing that either impresses them or repels them?
Yeah, I think that the job market is highly competitive today, and it's really important when you're reviewing lots of resumes, it's very important that yours stands out because of the things that you've gone and done proactively. So if you want to work in marketing, say, and you're completing your degree and your work experience says that you worked in Tesco and you worked in a nightclub and that's kind of it, that's not going to be very impressive. Whereas if it says that you volunteered for the marketing team at your local rugby club or something like that, and you took over responsibility for, let's say, email communication, and that helped to drive an increase in 16% of revenues over the 2024-25 season, then that type of thing really stands out as being A, proactive, B, commercially minded. And so it's just vital that your CV's got things on there which show that you are a builder, you are growth mindset, you have a growth mindset, and you're not just expecting things to land in your lap.
Mm-hmm. That sounds very easy to do as well, actually, because rather than going out there and getting that part-time job that is just paying your rent or helping you get to your next shopping trip, trying to make those moves in the industry that you're wanting to be part of makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I could probably add to that as well. I think that, there might not be experiences to go and get, because it is quite tough even to get like an internship or work experience, but there's lots of like free resources out there in terms of, getting like a bit of a qualification. There's lots of like LinkedIn learning. I think it's that being proactive is what always stands out for me. We don't have all the same opportunities that we can go and get internships, or that's maybe what they're trying to do, but showing on their CV that they're being proactive. I think on the other side of that is maybe the way that it looks as well. We don't just want a list of, skills or things on there, but make it a bit more about what they're passionate about and what they're looking to do, because this is much about, what they're trying to achieve than the experience that they've had, especially if they're early in their career. So definitely being proactive, I think, is one of the key things when you're putting your CV in, going out and doing things and seeking opportunities that align with what it is you're looking to do. I think a lot of people early in their career maybe just think that opportunities are just going to crop up, but especially because of the way the market is just now, like it's just so competitive. Just seeing someone's willingness to try and seek out those opportunities, as small as they are, like we will notice it on the CV.
And as Vickie mentioned, like the free resources like LinkedIn Learning and things like
Mhm.
that is an extension of that proactivity for sure.
Yeah.
But if you can tailor that to what it is you're trying to get into, then that is even better and it's going to stand out even more. So, for example, if I am finishing a degree in construction management, but my passion is sports venues, and I've gone and learned about the business of sports venues through courses that I've gone and done in my own time, um, then, and I'm applying for jobs with whoever the Olympics or whatever it might be, then, the more tailored that, if it is any work experience or voluntary things, or it's learning that you've gone and done, as Vickie suggested, tailored to that industry, that's going to stand out even further.
Definitely.
So it sounds like it's really good idea to know what it is you're aiming for to begin with. Before you're even getting to that point of the application, it sounds like you need to have thought beforehand and be getting those experiences in that are going to make that applications quite a lot of foresight and I guess forward thinking. What happens for those people who think, I'm not really very sure? How can I go about building proactively the experiences I need when I'm not that
Mhm.
clear on what it is I want to do when I graduate?
I think a lot of it is transferable skills. So, we're talking a lot there, we're talking about probably more specific skills around areas of work. But I think, a lot of it on the flip side as well is about attitudes. So, for instance, like if they're kind of unsure what they want to do, there's nothing wrong with actually saying that. It's not as an employer we say, right, we're going to bring you in at this role and that's the role that you're going to stay with the whole time, especially a graduate role. Like most recruiters and managers within the space are expecting you to come in to figure out what you want to do as well as, giving back to the company in that role at that time. So I think maybe be open about that. Say, these are the things that I enjoy. This is what I'm passionate about. These are my skills that I've got from experience or projects or at university. These are my values and what I enjoy doing. It doesn't have to be, I want to be a project manager or I want to work in cybersecurity. Some people know that from the get-go, but a majority of students don't actually know. And it's the whole journey is a bit of self-discovery. So I think putting some transferable stuff in there and being maybe open that this is kind of a direction, but they're seeking out opportunities to find out where they want to grow in as well.
I think that in addition, and I'll go back to Vickie's comment about learning, there is a never-ending supply of information from Gen Z content creators on TikTok and YouTube about, here's a day in the life of me as a project manager.
Yeah.
Here's a day in the life of me in IT, in whatever it is. So you're not going to necessarily know, am I definitely going to love working in that
Yeah.
type of job? But you can get a much better sense than you could when I was leaving university in 1999. But there was nothing. And it was pretty much impossible to find out. Most of the jobs my friends do now, I wouldn't have known when I was leaving university what these jobs were at all.
Yeah. I think that's lots of businesses, like you go in and you have a title and an expectation and then you go in and do it and it's nothing like that. And that's obviously just part of their development, but it can be hard to know what they want to do. I think it's more about values and their drive and they'll figure it out. You don't need to stick to one path as well. Like you can, it's just the way that the journey is. So I think, again, like the things we said, being proactive, you don't need to know exactly what you want to do, but there has to be some sort of direction. If you're applying for a role, then you're interested in that. But just being open to opportunities and reflecting that on the CV, I think.
This is all so very useful. So you both obviously have a lot of experience and background in recruitment. Maybe you could tell me a little bit about each of the companies you work for and your experiences there.
So, I mean, I left university in 1999 with no idea what I wanted to do. And I'm just going to be truthful here. A friend of mine had been working in recruitment for 2 years and he was driving a Mercedes. And I thought, that sounds great.
Yeah.
He briefed me on how to approach the interview. And the words that I was saying in the interview, I didn't really know what they meant, but I got the job and then I learned what it actually was. So I worked in recruitment, placing people into different jobs, accountants into different jobs for a couple of years, and then I moved into the recruitment marketing area. I then worked in house at PwC, the accountancy firm, for 3 years, and started building my own companies from then. So I worked for other people for 10 years. I started building my own companies. The first one was a services company. It was a social media related recruiting services business. I sold that to a London stock market listed company 3 years later. Started my first technology business in 2016, and we sold that to a large American business in 2022, and then started another recruitment technology business in 2023. It took me 10 years to work out. I wasn't really thriving working for other people. Pretty neurodiverse, and so actually having the ability to do things my own way, it turned out to be the right thing to do. So the business I run today is a startup recruitment technology business. The aim is to build it over maybe about a 3-year period. We're kind of 2 years in, sell it to a much larger player in the market. I like innovation and new things and first to market things, and I don't really like the sort of slow growth kind of phase of a company, but that first 5 years, I really enjoy that.
That's where you can really put your expertise and make things happen.
I get involved in lots of different things.
And how about you?
Yeah, well, so my kind of professional kind of career kicked off a bit later. So I've not had like a sort of what you would say a traditional journey, which is kind of why I've ended up in early careers, because it's, you know, past experience as well. So I worked didn't get on well at school, also neurodiverse. So that environment didn't really work. Well, yeah, we've got lots of neurodiverse people here. So I always kind of put off academics because I thought it wasn't for me. I was quite a creative person. So I worked in like various jobs. I've always been driven and hardworking. I just show up different. So kind of worked various jobs. And then I got to, you know, kind of early 20s and I thought there's more to this. Like I was getting a lot of blockers trying to progress in places. And then I found out about the graduate apprenticeship at Strathclyde. And then that's when I applied. I had no hope that I was going to get in because I didn't have all the qualifications, but I just put myself out there. I kind of tried to build a bit of a network around people, and I got the job at Leidos, and it was a business graduate apprenticeship programme. So you essentially got the job, as an apprentice, and it was business management for the 4 years, and you rotated around the business, kind of figuring out where you land. During that, I was not shy to kind of raise some stuff that needed to be changed in the programme, and ended up with a job at the end of it to fix that programme. So I kind of made my own work there, I think. And for the sort of 2 years it was building that programme. So we went from taking just a couple of grads and 1 or 2 apprentices to quite a significant amount, maybe 15, 20 a year. And we built a kind of really structured programme around that in terms of building their skills and experience. So kind of got that to where I wanted it to, and again needed a bit of challenge. I also enjoy the kind of craziness of setting something up and getting it going, and then when it gets to BAU I get a bit itchy feet. So and I'm also really interested in kind of learning and development, so that's how I ended up taking the role at Insights. And they were a wee bit the same, starting their grad programmes out and wanted to get someone in. I'm a bit the same, like I just didn't know what I want to do. And I don't think you need to put titles on things, and I don't really seek out a job title. It's more what's behind it, like what's the industry in. Worked in tech before, really enjoyed that. Moved over to a different company to get different experiences in how they run. So I think it's looking at like what your values are, what you're good at naturally is what you enjoy, but also setting yourself out challenges to do things differently as well. So I just enjoy working with kind of graduates and apprentices because I can just see the potential in them, and like to give them a bit of reassurance. You don't get to a certain age and know what you want to do. Like most people, even really high up, kind of execs that I've worked with are still like, I don't know what I want to do when I grow up. And so I think it's great, and that's just how I've ended up in that space, going from not knowing where the path takes you. And I think it's just being proactive and seeing what you enjoy, and you'll figure it out.
The things that I'm hearing coming back again and again is this idea of being proactive.
Yes.
Not worrying too much you're going to figure it out.
Yes.
Also, if you didn't necessarily have it figured out,
no,
you were proactive.
Yeah.
And you figured it out once you were in it.
Yes.
And also I think something coming up as well is not necessarily the job title. It's more about the values and the things you enjoy, rather than, and that might be a Mercedes to begin with or whatever.
It's an incentive.
And it might also be, it could be, and that's a perfectly fine one to have. It could also be feeling like, well, I've been through an experience and I know how to help people navigate that. And that's the value I want to offer. So there's so many different ways to find your path. if students think they know what they want and they're aiming for something, they're heading into an interview tomorrow and they need to sound confident and genuine from the very first second, would you have any tips as to how they can do that?
I mean, it's all about preparation. So as I mentioned, I would take a look at the videos on YouTube and TikTok and places like that from people that are working in that industry, in that job, in that company. Go onto the company's career site. So if it's a large organization, they'll have a career site as part of their company website, and that should be pretty rammed with great information around what are the career opportunities in here, and where could I potentially go, and what's the and also check out things like what's the company's purpose and values, and what's it really trying to achieve. Go and read the board press releases and the CEO's statements and things like that, so that you understand what are the priorities. And quite frankly, it's never been easier to go onto ChatGPT and just say, tell me about the most important challenges in the life sciences industry right now, and say, and here's my tip for that, say, write this so that a 14-year-old would understand. Because honestly, and then if you needed more details, okay, now, so that an adult would understand, or whatever it is. And that'll help you to really just get a lot more comfort around, you kind of know what the topics are. And also do the same about jobs. So if you're going to interview for a job as a logistics trainee, you don't really know what it is, but it sounds cool. Just go into ChatGPT and say, what does a logistics trainee do, and what do logistics companies do, and what are the main challenges? And
I think the preparation is the massive bit. I've had, 2 CVs come to me, both get through to interview, one that's quite maybe skills based, one that's not got as much experience. And, we've had someone who's on paper, super qualified, could probably come in and do the job, but they turn up to the interview not really knowing, much about the company. They've maybe just applied for it, even though it could be a perfect opportunity for them. They've maybe got multiple interviews, which is great, but they have not given themselves that space to prepare that they're coming in for this. So, and then you've had the other person with maybe not as much experience who has been super proactive, knows the values, knows what we're trying to do. Like I said, it doesn't actually take that much effort. It's probably a couple hours that could be potentially a role in a career. It's a lot down to attitude and being proactive. Like, if you're not just going to get handed the role, even if you have all the skills, you've had the experience, or you've been to the best university on paper, like, that's not really what matters anymore. So I think definitely being prepared. You can tell when someone's turning up and they're engaged and they know about references that you're talking about. It just makes such a difference for probably a couple of hours of your time.
I think it's really interesting to hear you say all that, and to maybe dissuade people from, I think sometimes when you're in the world of maybe trying to find your first job, or you've got a job that you really hate and you're trying to find another one that's going to be better, you might feel a bit panicked. And so you're just out there putting in
anywhere
applications.
Yes.
And actually that's not really the best use of your time. Because you're better to look for the thing that you feel is going to be a fit and put that research into it, rather than putting the time into just anything. I mean, it makes me think of when I graduated and I was round about the same era as you, and you couldn't do that research in the same way that today you can ask AI to really help you out with this kind of information. I had a flatmate and I had a brother who were going for the same job. It was in the BBC at the time, and it was to do with news. My flatmate had literally just done a postgraduate in news journalism. My brother had spent a year as student president at a university, and they were both in the final stages. They were flying down to London to have this interview, and the thing that I think clinched it in the end, and I felt very conflicted because I really like my flatmate and obviously I'm related to my brother, so I love him. I didn't know, how it was going to go. The first question they were asked about was, okay, what are your top 3 news items for today's lunch bulletin? My brother, because he loves news, had spent the flight looking at all the news that morning because he loves it. And my flatmate had spent the same journey, I guess, polishing up on what he was going to say about his skills or whatever. And it was as simple as that. That just the utter love for the industry was probably the thing. Even though my brother didn't have the same qualification, it just worked out as a better fit. It could have gone the other way if they had a different flight. So the preparation does seem so important.
I mean, I can tell you the converse of that, which is when I was leaving university and I did what we shouldn't do, and that is applied for everything because I didn't have a clue about anything. And I'm sitting with a graduate recruiter from ASDA, and she asked me a question I was not expecting, which with hindsight was really moronic. And the question was, what is it you like about ASDA? So thinking on my feet, I said, "Oh, yeah. I mean, I like the curry pot at the back of the store. Like, yeah, getting a jalfrezi or a buna or whatever." And I said, and then I stopped and I went, "Yeah, and also I say the clothes. It's good value clothes. I mean, they were bad answers. They were just like, I've been in ASDA a couple of times.
Yeah, so I do my shop there.
Yeah, exactly. They were really bad answers. What I should have said was about supporting local manufacturers and creating everyday value for customers, and that's what I should have known about. I didn't know any of that because I hadn't done any research. I just thought, I'll get the job, no problem. I'll turn up and just be able to wing it. It's so competitive. It was so competitive then. It's even more competitive now.
Yeah. And so as a result of that, the job hunt can involve a lot of rejection. It's just going to be part of it. How can students or job seekers use resilience to help them through that process, which can feel quite crushing?
I'll take that one. So it's a big mindset thing, I think. I know how tough it can be. I'm on the other side of that, and it's not nice, when you're giving out kind of rejections when someone's been probably shown up well, and it's just so competitive. So it's not a nice thing. So you could only imagine someone that's maybe had their heart set out, someone that has done preparation and put a lot of time into it. For me, it's definitely mindset, because it's an opportunity. It's going to set you up. Yes, you might have had to put a little bit of work in, CVs, interview prep, sometimes there's assessments to do, but it's just going to teach you, and it's just going to get you closer to that yes. So you might have to do 4 or 5 to get to there, but think about how well you're not only building your own skills for interview skills, building up, being able to answer sort of questions on the spot. This is all things that you're learning, and you'll find each one will just get better. And I think it's actually harder for people to get a rejection on something that they've put the work into, and sometimes they go, what's the point? I prepped for that and I think I did absolutely phenomenal. I put the time in and it was a no. But sometimes it's just you're not the right fit, but you can make a really good impression. So for instance, I've actually had in the past only a couple of roles to offer, and it's really tough, and we've got to the point where we can only offer it to so many people, but I've had such a good experience that I've remembered that individual. We've maybe took their details, and I know you think that we don't do anything with that. You get that email back, or you get the comms back that says, we'll keep you in the portal for future and you'll not hear anything. That's not always the case. I've actually had people turn up, they've maybe just needed a little bit more in a certain area, and we've fed that back, and they've came back maybe a couple of months later or the year after for the same role, and then they've actually got the role then because they've went away and done the work. Yes. So for me, it's going and asking for feedback. Don't let it put you off and just start turning up and not putting the work in because you think, oh, it's not working, I'll just wing it. Because you're making an impression, and asking for the feedback as well, because sometimes when you do a good job in an interview, you think, what could I have done any better? And it's sometimes the smallest things that make the difference. And it's going into that, we're not being resilient or being, not wanting to take that feedback on, because we're just sort of here to help you, and taking that on and making the difference. And then you notice is when they go to the next interview, they'll be able to apply that and they might get the job. So yeah, you build resilience. That's going to help them. They can put that in their CV.
That's true. Another one of those soft skills, those transferable skills.
100%.
That might be really useful. When it comes to actually talking about soft skills, the things like collaboration, we talk a lot about in terms of being an entrepreneurial thinker. So some people might want to be an entrepreneur, and they're going to have a particular skill set, but we think that a lot of those skills actually apply really well to just doing well in the workforce. So we talk about collaboration, resilience, communication. How can students showcase these kind of softer skills without sounding vague?
Yeah.
Because you've talked a bit as well about that element of being able to say, well, I volunteered as a marketing assistant, and what I did, what I brought to them was it improved this by this percent. I did. How can we talk about those softer skills while still being specific enough to make an impact?
I mean, I believe that the ability to be able to display growth mindset is something which will really impress any potential employer. And like being able to show that you've used your communication skills to achieve influence with people, to bring them into your project or to align them to something you're doing or to sell something to them, for example, it's just a perfect way of displaying that. Anything like I did this is not a great representation of that. I did this because of this, and this is what it led to.
Yeah.
Really is. And if it leads to something that's got numbers in it, then that's perfect.
Yeah.
And if it leads to something that's got numbers and a currency at the front, that's even better.
Telling a story.
Yeah, I think it's all about storytelling. I think when it comes to soft skills, it's how you describe it. So like you said, instead of just saying, oh, I'm hardworking, like that's the worst thing to put in a CV. Like you see it at opening line, it's like, I'm a hardworking individual. It's like, how are you hard work? Like, how can you say that? So backing it up by a bit of a story in terms of, if you're talking about resilience, like we said, I worked on multiple projects or tasks or volunteering at the same time doing my studies. I had these challenges, but I was able to do this. Like, so having a wee bit of the outcome and backing up what you're saying, because how are we supposed to believe that you're hardworking when you're not displaying that? And it's a hard balance because you don't want to have a big massive paragraph of all the stuff, but try and make it precise. Like you said, there's tools that can help you do that. You don't want to go too much down that route where it's robotic, but at least it can help you prompt in short stuff if you know what you're trying to say. So I think definitely it's storytelling, like put a bit of you in and how you are that soft skill, if that makes sense. And it's probably a bit of reflection on, they probably don't realise all this transferable skills that they've got with just taking part-time jobs, volunteering, etc. So it's actually probably doing a bit of a reflective exercise before and thinking, right, what am I trying to convey here? I know I'm all these things and I know I can bring that to the table, but what have I done in my time that I can then put into this CV that's going to be worthwhile to show them that I'm all of these skills.
Just on part-time jobs, one of the things that I would recommend everybody does, even just for 6 months or 6 to 12 months, and this is a really important element of building resilience, is get a job in a call center.
Okay.
If you can get a job in a call center, you're going to get rejected a lot, and you're going to get rejected a lot more in week 1 than you are in week 2 and week 3 and week 4 as you craft an ability to be able to evolve your communication skills and your ability to achieve influence with people. It doesn't need to be a call center. Any type of a sales environment, even now, working in a sales job is not for 80% of the population. But actually, if you throw yourself in, whether you think that it's going to be a future career or not, that's not the point. The point is for every. But there's I think it's Unilever, is it? No, sorry, Procter & Gamble maybe. I think pretty much every graduate they hire starts in sales.
I see.
Because they really want to understand that these people have got the ability to overcome problems and show resilience and have a growth mindset. Yeah. And then they move from there into other jobs. I'm sorry, Procter & Gamble, if you're watching and I got that wrong. But I think you maybe that used to be the case. It might still be the case, but yeah, I think that's quite good.
I think to add to that then, it's probably when we're talking about being proactive, like small opportunities. Like I think a lot of people maybe coming out of uni think that they're just going to go straight into a grad job that's going to be exactly the route or the industry that they're looking for, or even when they're in uni, it's looking for those smaller opportunities that will make a difference. So whether it's a call centre or somewhere, think about all the kind of skills that you can then put forward for that. You're not going to, majority of the time, you won't walk into your kind of maybe dream company or environment. It's just taking all those small things that will build that up.
All the small steps to make the job.
Oh, it definitely makes a difference.
Absolute gold. I really wish I'd had this kind of conversation to listen to when I graduated and was flailing around trying to figure out how on earth to get that first foot in the door, how on earth to get through those interviews that felt quite painful at the time, and feeling like, oh, everyone else has this figured out and I do not know what I'm doing here. But you do get through it and you end up somewhere, and it's a start.
Yeah.
So it's just really great to have this conversation. I'd love to talk to you a little bit about mindsets and kind of try and give listeners a bit of a career backstage pass kind of thing. So what's one underrated quality or mindset or habit that candidates bring, which employers quietly love but maybe rarely vocalize?
Oh.
I mean, for me, the ability to solve problems is one which everybody has to start doing from the day they're born, right through till the day that they no longer exist. And the people who thrive professionally are the ones who can work out how to get over, under, round, or through
Yeah.
an obstacle. And there's a guy who works with me who was the first hire into my company. And the reason we hired him was because I knew that I could give this guy a finance problem or a marketing problem or a technical problem, and he would work it out. And so I really believe that problem solving is, and actually that's especially important if you're doing what Vickie started her career doing, which was a kind of rotation program around a lot of different teams. I think that to me is one which, especially in an age when a lot of jobs which are, I do this specific niche thing, that's not good. They're not going to exist anymore.
Yeah.
They're just not going to, because
Yes,
artificial
changes.
intelligence is going to obliterate a lot of those jobs.
I think for me, again, it probably adds to proactiveness, is like the sort of being open and a bit self-led. I think we are absolutely noticing a shift in, kind of people coming through the workplace now to previous generations. There's pros and cons to that. I think there's sometimes a mindset of, this is what I should be getting in a company, which I think is both positive and negative. So people aren't putting up with rubbish with the way companies are treating them nowadays.
Right.
And there is an expectation that I should get X, Y, and Z. But with that, other things can lack in terms of, oh, well, I'll kind of wait for the opportunity. And even when you secure the role, going into a grad role, companies are doing better now to try and retain those grads. So they're giving them lots of benefits in terms of like good stuff they can get on the programme, extra qualifications, etc. So it being quite tough for them to keep the balance right. And that comes down a lot to the management and that individual as well. But when you've noticed 2 grads on the same programme, you've got one who is actually being really proactive. They're taking feedback on. They're not getting defensive. They're taking it as an opportunity, and they are going out to seek those opportunities. Whether there's another person who's just getting their head down and maybe getting their work done, there's nothing wrong with both of them. But what you'll find is that the first one is the one that's probably going to progress a bit quicker. They're opening opportunities, networking with people, and just being proactive and open-minded, and sometimes taking on the tasks that they don't necessarily love. And they will kind of thrive in that environment than someone who is just like, this is my job role and this is what I want to do. None of them are wrong. It's just that one's going to excel quicker. And we've noticed it as well. It's the people that are being open-minded who will go and find opportunities, because it's not always nice going into a grad role, even on programmes that are really well structured. Being a graduate is quite a sticky area because you've got teams trying to delegate and manage and do their day jobs. They're in a brand new environment. They're trying to settle in and figure out how a business works. But the best thing is just to take on all the opportunities, the small tasks, etc. When they're in the door. And obviously we've spoke about before being proactive and how to get in there. But yeah, for me it's open-mindedness, acceptance of feedback as well, and you can see them grow through that.
I just wanted to add, so Vickie said about the concept of being hardworking and how putting hardworking on your CVs just on its own is like not a great thing. I mean, I've seen lots of people who work 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day, and accomplish less than somebody who works 7 hours a day, but they work damn smart.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I would do to stand out is I'm a little bit biased about this because I work in technology and I work in AI, but if you can go into an interview and you can explain how you have used AI in your personal life, your studies, your just like life management or whatever it is, to make yourself more productive and
Yeah.
successful. And there's loads of free AI products out there,
Mhm.
right? But if you can go, I've actually reduced all my life admin
Yeah.
by like 75% because I've got this connected to this,
Mhm.
and that takes information from that, and then I don't even need to think about it, and it just alerts me when I need to know about something or whatever it is. That's not something that's hugely difficult to actually, just put into place, and it'll benefit anybody. Anybody could do that.
Yeah. So working smart,
Yes.
thinking ahead, being willing to take good feedback and bad feedback and take it on board. I think we're all aware that things are changing very quickly at the minute, and it can feel a little bit daunting to people who are at the start of maybe a 4-year degree program or even with a whole year to go, and you think, well, by the end of this, everything is going to have changed an awful lot. So how can we be future ready when it comes to thinking about what your employment is going to be? When employers talk about this idea of future ready graduates, what does that really mean, and how can a student position themselves to be future ready?
Obviously we spoke about being proactive, and I will not talk about that again, but I think it's maybe starting things a bit earlier. So for instance, like if they're, some graduates will wait till the last minute. I mean, a lot of people do, they probably do that in their studies as well. If they still get their work done, that's their business. But I think it's starting early and start looking at those opportunities. Building your network is the probably the best thing that you can do. So, there's loads of organisations. The uni offer so much in terms of, their network, events, whether it's a particular area. It's not just going to a job fair, it's immersing yourself in that. Get contacts, reach out to people, start looking at what are the opportunities. Like, is there a company I want to work for? Right, let's do some research. Have they got a grad programme? When does it start? Can I reach out to someone personally? We've had people come into job fairs and been really engaged and then follow up after me, and I don't have a choice but to say, right, here's the details, get applied. And even subconsciously you're going to remember that person. So it's being immersing yourself in it, being proactive. And again, it's a mindset. Switch your mindset from, oh my God, I'm really daunted, it's tough. And I get people's personal circumstances as well can come into play to this, but what you'll find is the people that drive forward are the ones that are like, actually, this is really exciting, this is an opportunity, I get to meet new people, I can potentially have a future career here. So it's really like almost being excited about that opportunity and going out, because they'll be able to feel that than you going, oh, I don't know what I want to do and I'm scared. Because you just need to be a bit brave and just go for it and be proactive. Again, I've said that about 10 million times. Maybe we could do a buzzword for proactive on this podcast.
Everyone does a shot.
Yes, there we go. Good luck.
I'm going to give a specific answer to that in a second, but just again to add on to what Vickie just said there, LinkedIn's just a brilliant platform. It's a brilliant resource, and I can't remember the exact statistics, but it's over 80% of people on LinkedIn are happy to connect to people that they've never met before if they feel that person's useful or relevant to them. So if I am looking for to work in financial services as a banking or something like that, then the early careers like advisors or graduate advisors or whatever at HSBC and Lloyds and Barclays, whatever, they're all on LinkedIn. You can send them a LinkedIn invite with maybe just 1 or 2 sentences to explain why you want to just follow, the things that they're sharing, and you'll get an absolute rich source of great information.
Yeah.
They might not have the time to ever respond to you in a one-to-one message, but even if they don't, it doesn't matter, because you're going to be able to immerse yourself and soak up what it is that they're looking for. And they will post, some of them more than others, but they will post tips and things about here's how to get a job as an early, as your first job out of college or uni or whatever at Barclays. They will do that. Just go a little bit more specific though. I would certainly be, I've got friends, a husband and wife who are lawyers, and their kids are the same age as my kids. And I said to them a couple of weeks ago, would you encourage your kids to be lawyers? They both said no. Like, anybody that's studying to be a lawyer, I'm sorry, I'm not, that's listening to this, I am not trying to freak you right out here, but there are certain jobs that are very much more susceptible to others to be basically obliterated by artificial intelligence. Okay, I don't know now or in 2 years' time what a trainee lawyer is going to be doing, because drafting contracts is not something that needs to be done.
Yeah.
Right. So what you have to do is you have to go and learn. Let's say I am studying to be a lawyer, or other jobs which are susceptible to disruption. I'm studying this. How is this profession going to change? How can I immediately start to learn about things which are tangential that I can maybe layer in? And just as a good example, when I started my company, it was a sales enablement. It was a recruitment enablement technology, and inspired by sales enablement technology. And I went on to ChatGPT and I said, what is the purpose of sales enablement if salespeople will no longer exist because their jobs will be done primarily by AI agents? And I got a great answer that was, right, okay, so sales enablement technology is going to enable the AI agents rather than necessarily human salespeople. So I now know what, with my company, what we are going to need, where it's going to be in the future. So go and learn about. And McKinsey produces some really great research around jobs and their susceptibility to becoming redundant through technology changes, not just AI, but robotics and other things.
So nobody panic, but do your research about what is coming, because you cannot stop it, but you can be ready.
Yeah.
That's what that sounded like to me. And take what is coming with a pinch of excitement, because you're capable. You're learning skills that you can maneuver into whatever area that you end up in, because things are changing very quickly. We can't know exactly what it's going to look like when you're out there fighting for that first job when you're maybe a first year right now and you're working towards it. But know that if you do your research and you are proactive and you prepare, you're going to be starting from a better position than a lot. Okay. I would love to get a few rapid fire single tips or single sentences from you. High impact, no frills is the idea. So one thing to ditch on your CV that drives recruiters mad when they see it.
I've said mine, the hardworking. I think a long list of not just soft skills, just bullet points with nothing to back it up. Obviously, it's good to have maybe some technical stuff in the side, but I think just a long list when there's no evidence there. I'm also this may be a biased opinion, but I quite like the CV to look nice. So, it is simple, but your grammar, etc. There's tools to be able to do that. It's just a bit of effort to make sure that your spelling and stuff's okay. But yeah, get yourself. I think the hard work and the skills that are listed without any kind of evidence to back it, because honestly, you'll just skim right past that and it won't be interesting. So yeah, ditch the buzzwords as much as possible, because I've been saying proactive this whole this whole podcast.
Okay, ditch the buzzwords.
I'd say get rid of any fluff. So anything that doesn't actually back up that you are a useful human being. So for example, I like going to gigs is utterly pointless. If, however, there's things that you like to do in your personal life and you like to do them because it's adding something to you as a human being, and that's going to potentially allow you to add more to that employment opportunity, then that's great. So an example might be, I take part in, like fitness challenges.
Yeah.
Because I am aware that, good fitness is going to lead to being able to make good lifestyle decisions or whatever it might be, rather than I like going to gigs.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yep. One phrase to memorize for interviews that signals confidence.
Ooh.
One phrase to memorize for interviews that
something that
confidence.
will immediately set you out, as maybe settle your nerves in the opening part of an interview.
I don't want to repeat what I've said a load of times already, but honestly, I personally don't believe there's anything more important than growth mindset and somebody that is willing to learn. And so if you go into an interview and say that you've got a growth mindset and you are continuously looking to better yourself, to be able to achieve more for the initiatives you're involved with, they'll benefit from that.
I think that will set them up good as well for the interview, because especially if you're new in your career, you might be asked questions and you won't tick all the boxes. Like, especially as a graduate, you'll be lucky to only tick a few in terms of like the skills, etc. Kind of tech skills that they need for the role. but just being open with saying, you know, I'm really excited about this opportunity and this is why, this is what I'm currently doing and this is what I'm striving towards, you know, like aligning that with kind of values of the company, but also saying that they are really open to learn. That's the main thing. The people at the interview, whether that's the managers or the hiring team, know that this is a graduate or someone early in their career. So it's all about their potential at that point. And just the way that they show up as well, in terms of like how they're engaging in the interview is a massive thing, and them sitting, you know, but we get it can be nervous, that's absolutely normal. But actually taking time to listen to what they're saying, and yeah, I think that will come with confidence, is just being sure in yourself of that you've done a bit of preparation and that you're open to letting them know that you're willing to learn is the main thing.
Fabulous. We did ask on our Instagram if anyone had any questions they wanted to ask you. And we had a listener asking specifically about the job market in publishing or writing.
Okay.
Any experiences that can be recommended to help them get that goal? Do either of you have any advice?
Don't have experience in that area, but probably like what we said before, each industry will have its own sort of niche thing. So for instance, if it's tech, you've got someone that's maybe being proactive and going and teaching themselves code, and there's a lot of kind of free stuff. If it's publishing, etc., maybe make a bit of a portfolio or something. I've seen that coming through on some of the creative sides of the grad programs I've worked on. And that is incredible to see that someone's been proactive. And again, there's a lot of free software out there you can use. So I think it's going out and actually sharing a bit of material, maybe making a bit of a portfolio, etc. I don't know much about the area at the moment, but I think find what the niche is in that area, and do that wee bit extra, because majority of people are probably just going to go and put a CV in and maybe a cover letter if you're lucky. But if you've got something that they've put work into that they can then go and display, even if that recruiter doesn't look at it, so even just having it there, it means you've put the work in there. That's just something to talk about.
I mean, that's an industry that's been heavily, heavily disrupted over the last 30 years, and it will never change, because human nature is that they're going to gravitate from getting their information they need from one place to the next place to the next place. And so that's ongoing dynamic. And being aware of like what are the current changes that are happening and how fast are those changes happening. So I mean, you know, there's jobs that people have done which overnight they're no longer needed. The lamplighter is a good example. What the big aspect to that one would be writing in particular is something which can get done by non-humans, right? So what is the added value that humans bring to that? And the added value that humans bring to that is the insights that only they can go and generate. So how do they go and generate those insights in a way that they're competing with AI writing today?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So really understanding the industry and what's happening, what the changes are, really understanding in the, you know, a writing job, what is the real added value that only a human can bring. And the third one would be, where can I put these skills to use? And how can I get experiences? I talked about volunteering and marketing at the rugby club. Well, actually, the rugby club, or like lots of other organizations that are around you, just go and look around your neighborhood and you'll find there are organizations where it may be helpful for them if you just walk in the door and volunteer to write their match program or write their whatever it might be that, you know, they need help with.
Yeah. I can speak to this one a little bit myself, because I studied English at university and I very much wanted to be a writer. But I wanted to be a writer in the way you're talking about, the eras of it's always changing as to where you're going to be able to make a difference in that kind of world. And I wandered into a newspaper office and kind of did some work experience, was proactive in that way, and that kind of got me going into the world of newspapers. And then I looked around when I was in there and realized everyone is being made redundant. Even at that stage, this was quite a long time ago, everyone is being made redundant, and mostly freelancers are taking up the slack, but even there's less work already. And I thought, I shouldn't stay here because this is not going to bring growth. I need to find something that will.
Yeah.
And so I looked beyond the world of that into, it was copywriting, it was marketing. There were other ways to write that weren't necessarily the ones I had in my mind when I was a kid, when I was even at university. because you don't really know what the world is going to be like yet until you're in it. And then you look and you have to look critically at what's in front of you and realize, okay, this is working now, but what's coming over the horizon? And I can still do those things. I'm a storyteller. I'm still a storyteller now. That's what I'm doing right now. It's just not necessarily the way that I thought it was going to be when I first entered the world of work. So I think there's a lot of opportunity out there as long as you're willing to take a look at what's coming over the horizon. Adam and Vickie, thank you so much. I could keep talking to you for a lot longer, but I better not, because I know you have a lot to do. It really has felt like unlocking a backstage door and letting students know, it's not random. There is a strategy to this. If you can adjust your language, if you can be proactive, you can show your growth mindset, you will stand out. It is possible. And things might feel quite difficult in career-wise in the top job market right now, but it gets easier when you know the game. So you're ready, and let's see what you can achieve. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of Inspiring Entrepreneurs. And if you found anything useful in the things that we said, we would love it if you would leave us a review wherever you listen. It really helps new viewers to find us. And stay tuned for the rest of this mini-series, which is designed to help you reach your personal and professional goals using the power of an entrepreneurial mindset. We have amazing experts speaking on topics from self-doubt, finding your path and not needing all of the answers right now, all the way to building confidence by trying a side hustle and maybe even transforming it into the career that you've been dreaming of. So stay tuned.